Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we're going to continue with our series on building a simple language translator that can simply take a picture and then translate the text, identify the text within the picture, and then translate it into multiple languages. So in the last tutorial, we left off this where we ended. So let me just run this off so we can see where we ended from last time. So I'm just going to run and then python 3 run.py. This is going to start our development server running on localhost at port 5000. So we can simply go in there and check. So I can simply click on this and then check this out. So open this out with my browser. I've opened it up a couple of times. Let me just close it up. Yeah, so this is what we have right now, and this is where we have reached so far, creating this bootstrap image slider. And you can also go ahead and upload given file images. Let me just okay, for now the buttons don't work, but if I go to the /upload, as we did last time, you can simply click on this and then you can upload an image, right? And then you get the translation, the OCR works on that, and then you get the image, you detect the text that is within the image, right? So in this tutorial, we are going to go ahead and actually do the decoded page. So for now, in the decoded page, let me just zoom in. You can see we're just returning a hello world. So what I want to do, I want to have a form, right? And instead of the form, the text that we detect inside of the image will be the content of that form. So this content right here will be inside of the form, right? And then the users can select which language. Okay, sorry, but so the users can select which language they want to translate to, and then get the audio and the text version of that translation. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get started. So let me just go ahead and stop my development server, clear my terminal, and open up my VS Code, or feel free to use any editor that you're comfortable using. In my case, I'm going to use VS Code for this. And also one thing you have to make sure that is you must have Flask WT forms installed. So if you don't have Flask WT forms installed, make sure that you go ahead and install this. But all the installation that we need is inside of the GitHub repository, so you should be able to get all of that from there. Okay, so it's in the GitHub repository in the requirement.txt file. So if you can just simply copy this and simply do a pip install and make sure that Flask WTF installs. So let's actually copy this and then let's make sure that it installs. So I'm just going to paste it here and then run this. This is probably going to tell me that my requirements are already satisfied since I already have Flask WTF installed. Okay. So once this is done, let me just go into my VS Code here. So what I want to do, I want to go ahead, let me just minimize this static and the templates folder. So what I want to do, instead of my applications, I want to create a file called forms.py. So instead of forms.py, okay, let me get it right. So forms.py, so let me rename that. So it's forms.py, just like that. So instead of forms.py, this we are going to have our form created. So you can see the requirements for that Flask WTF is already fulfilled. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into VS Code and then let's create that form. So what I want to do, I want to say from WT forms, I want to import the following. I want to import the text area field. I want to import the submit field, and I want to import the select field. Okay, so I want to import select field. So once I have those imported, I'm also going to say from flask underscore WTF import, I'm going to go ahead and import flask form. And I'm also going to say from WT forms, right, dot validators, I'm going to go ahead and import data required and length also. No, let's just keep data required validator, just to make sure that we do the validation of a person actually passing in some text. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and create a class here. So I'm going to create a class and I'm going to call it my form. Okay, you can call it anything you want, but I'm just going to call it my form, and it's going to inherit from Flask form. Okay, so let me get the spelling of class. Okay, so once I got that right, what I still want to do, I want to create a field. I'm going to call this the text field, and I'm going to call this the text field, and this is actually going to be actually a text field. Okay, so it's actually going to be a text field, and then you're going to give it a name called data. Okay, and you can pass in a couple of validators that you want. So I'm going to pass in a list here, and the only validator that I want is data required validator, and make sure to call this function. Yeah, that's the only validator that I want provided, and yeah, that's all I want. So, and then I can also go ahead and provide the language. So a user is going to be able to pass in some text and be able to select which language he or she wants to translate the text into. So we're going to have a language underscore field, and this is going to be a drop down, right? This will be a drop down where the user can select which language he or she wants to use. So for let's test this out, I'm going to say select field, and I'm going to say language to translate to, just like that. And then you're going to provide a couple of choices, so you can just say choices, and this will be a list of tuples. Okay, the first is going to be, let me just say that let's say English, and then let's just say English here, so English, just like that. And then the other field can be maybe French, and then this will be French, just like that. So once we have that, I also want to go ahead and create a submit field where the user can use to submit. So I'm just going to say submit, and this is going to be equals to the submit field, okay, submit field here, and I'm just going to say translate. So the text of that is going to be translate. So great. So once we have this form created, I want to go into my routes.py and make sure that I have this imported, because we're going to use it just in a second. So make sure that you have our form imported. So let's go ahead and just say I can import it here. So I can say from forms, from forms I want to import this is my data, my form. Okay, so let me just keep it up here. Okay, so from my form I want to go ahead and import from forms I want to go ahead and import my form. So once I have that done, I can simply go ahead and make an instance of that inside of our decoded, because our decoded is what that returns to us the hello world. Now we don't want that hello world, instead we want the form data. So let's go ahead and create that form data. So I'm going to go in here and then just delete this for now, and I'm simply going to say form is going to be my form, just like that. Create an instance of it, and then you're going to return, and the template that you're going to return is going to be called decoded.html. so decoded.html. and if you don't know where this file is, we created it in the last tutorial, and it is actually I don't have it here because we're just returning a simple hello world, so we didn't actually create it. So let's go ahead and create this file here. Call it decoded.html. Great. So once we have that created, we're just going to return that form, and we're going to pass in the form as form, just like this. Yeah, that's all we need for now. So I'll just go in here, and then let's make sure that we inherit the layout template. So I'm still going to copy this and then modify it. So I'm going to copy it and paste it in here. We don't need all of this, so let me just get rid of all of this. So inside of here, that's we're going to keep our form that is going to be submitted to the back end for the form validation and stuff. So going to go ahead and just delete this as well. So we have a clean, we just inherited the layout.html template. So what I want to go ahead now, I want to go into my I think we have an error here, return we have an error here, but for now let's just leave this. We'll come back to this just in a second. For now, let's go into our init.py file, and inside of this file I want to go ahead and set a secret key. The reason why we are setting a secret key is because we're going to be using Flask form, and forms themselves from a form of cyber attack called the cross-site request forgery token attacks. So we need to have a secret key to make sure that our apps are secure. So we're going to say app.config, okay, app.config, and you're going to simply pass in app.config, and then you're going to say this is going to be a secret key. So I'm going to say secret underscore key, all uppercase, okay, and this is going to be a secret key. So let me just go into my terminal and generate a secret key here. So I'm just going to go into the Python 3 terminal here, and inside of my terminal, and I'm simply going to go ahead and say import secrets. And you've already used secrets in the last tutorial, so it's just used to generate some random hex token. Okay, so I'm going to say secrets secrets.token underscore hex, and I'm going to pass in, let me say let's say 30, and then generate some some random numbers, and this is what you're going to use as our app secret. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to exit out of this Python. Okay, so once we have that, I'm going to go in here and simply paste it in here. So paste that in there, and let me go ahead, and it already has the code, so I'm just going to paste it there. So we have our secret key generated. So now we can go back into our application, and then we can simply go ahead and start using our forms. So once we have this set up, let's go into our routes.py. I see we have some errors here. So the only thing I forgot here, I think I forgot the return the render template, right? Because this is going to be a template. So copy this and simply paste it in here. So we're going to be returning a render template. So once that error is done, let's go into our decoded .html file, and inside of here, that's where we're going to keep our template to return our form for us. So we need to actually write some HTML in here to return to us the form that we desired. In this case, the form that you're going to be rendering is going to be this Flask form that we created. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I simply want to do is I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give it a call a margin top of 4. Okay, and instead of this div, I'm going to create a card. So I'm going to create a card, and the card is what is going to contain the text that we want. So I'm going to say let me just give it a class of card hyphen body. So card body, and then just like that. And in here I also want to say justify content center. Yeah, so now instead of this Flask, instead of this card body, that's where I'm going to keep my form. So I'm going to keep a form here, form in here. So great. So for the action part, we're just going to leave that to be blank, because it's going to return this back to the route that return this form. So it's going to be returning it back to this route here. So you don't need to specify the action, and then but you can specify the method, and the method I'm just going to use a post method. Okay, because we want our form to have a post method. So once we have that, I'm going to do the prevent any cross-site requests for forgery tokens again our website. So you have to say form dot token form dot csrf underscore token, and then we have to call this. And form, if you don't know what form is the variable that we passed in here, right? Form is this variable that we passed in, and also we are trying to access here, and it has a method called csrf token, which prevent against cross-site requests for forgery attacks. Okay, so once we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and okay, let me just go ahead and create a field set. So I'm just going to say field set, and this field set I'm going to pass in a class. I'm going to say a class, and the class is going to be form hyphen group, and then these are just some bootstrap classes. So I'm also going to pass in a legend. So I'm just going to say a legend. So I'm going to say a legend, pass in a legend, and the legend is just going to be get translation or something. Just get translations. Okay, so I hope that's the spelling of translation. I haven't made any error. So for this I want to give it a class of margin bottom of 4. So great. So once I have that done, I want to go ahead and actually have another class here. I'm going to call it form group. Form group, let me get the spelling of group right. So once I have that, instead of this I'm going to have my form content. So I'm going to have form dot data. This is going to be text field, so I'm going to access text field. So if I go back to my form, I want to access this field right here. So I'm going to go in here, copy this and paste it here. So form field dot, you're going to say form field dot label, and then you're simply going to pass in a class, and it's going to this is going to be a bootstrap class. So we're going to say form hyphen control hyphen label, just like that. So form control form hyphen control hyphen label, and these are some bootstrap classes to help us deal with the rendering and stuff and styling of our website. So once we have that, I'm going to keep a code block, and we say if form dot data dot if form dot, this is going to be a text, right? It's going to be this text field dot errors, and then for ginger to template we have to end this if block right here. So say end if. Okay, so if you open an if block, then you have to go ahead and also end the if block. So once we have that, what I want to do is instead of this, I want to go ahead and actually pass in the following. So I'm going to say form dot text just paste that in there. So form dot text field, and you're going to pass in a class. In case there's an error, we're going to pass in the following class. You're going to say form hyphen control form hyphen control dash sm, and then you're going to say is hyphen invalid. Yeah, that's what you do passing. In case there's an error, you're just going to make the form to be read that to show that it's invalid. But in this case, mostly I don't think we're going to get that error. But yeah, for now we can just leave it like that. And then we, in case there's an error, we can just loop through and then print out all the errors. So I'm going to say for error in form dot text field dot errors. Okay, this for now we don't need all of this form validation and stuff, but I'm just showing you the standard way to create forms in Jinja 2 template. In case you want to create more advanced forms, then you'll be able to deal with the error handling and all of that stuff. So let me just go ahead and actually end this for block. So once I have that done, inside of this for block, what I want to do, I want to have a class of invalid feedback. So these are just some bootstrap classes that are going to give our form an invalid feedback. This is going to make it just basically some give the text a red coloring. So let me just go in here and then the feedback. Yeah, so it's going to give the text a red coloring. So in here I'm just going to have a span tag and then this, and I'm simply going to go ahead and output the error. So I'm just going to use those two curly braces and round curly brackets, and then I'm simply going to say error, just like that. So for error in the form text field errors, you're going to simply display each error with a class of is invalid, which is going to make the text a bit reddish. So for that we have ended the for loop here. In case there's no error, what I want to do, I want to go and say keep a code block here, and then I'm simply going to say else. I have to say else. So I have to say else here, and then in here I think I made an error. This is supposed to move exactly down, so this is supposed to move here, so because it must be at the end here. So let me just go ahead and indent that. Yeah, so in case there's an error, you're going to loop through each of those, display the form with an invalid, make the form outline of the form to be red, and then below the form you're going to loop through and display all the errors right here. So yeah, let me just tap this inside, and then else, in case there's no error, what I simply want to do, go ahead and just simply say display the form field again, but without the red error indicator. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and pass in a class here. The class is going to be form hyphen control, and then we're going to say form hyphen control dash sm, just like that. So form text field, which is our text field right here. If you go to our Flask form, which is our text field right here, I want to go ahead and give it a class which is going to be form control, and then form control hyphen sm. So that's all we need, and then we can go yeah, that's all we need to display our forms. So in case we let's also go ahead and display this part of the form, which is going to be the select field, right? So let's go ahead and display that select field option. So I'm going to go ahead and just say keep some bootstrap class here. Is this going to be input hyphen group, just like that, and then dot margin bottom is going to be of 3. Okay, so this margin bottom is actually of margin bottom, let's make it to be 3. So what I want to do inside of here is display the ability for user to be able to select which language he or she wants to translate the text into. So I'm just going to say form hyphen group, let me get the spelling of group right, and then you're going to say dot pre-end, just like that. I got the spelling of pre-end right. It is I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah, it's just some bootstrap classes, and I hope that's the spelling, and we won't get any errors. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and actually keep another label here. I'm going to keep a label, and the label for this label for is going to be you're going to have a class for this. So for now, let's just say you're going to say input field, just like that. And then for the class, I'm just going to pass in a class. I'm going to say the class is going to be input hyphen group. For now today, I don't know why I keep typing group wrong, and then you're going to simply say text. So input hyphen group hyphen text, and that's going to be the class, and then the for is going to be input field, And then what I'm going to have here is going to be form. It's going to be a variable. So let's say I'm going to say form dot let me just go in here, form dot language field dot label. Okay, form dot language field dot label, just like that. So form dot language field dot label, and then that's all we need to pass in. So yeah, so once I have that done, what I simply want to do is below this div I want to go ahead and actually output the select field. So I'm going to go ahead and say form dot language field dot form dot language field. I want to display the actual selector here, so I'm going to say class, and the class is going to be custom underscore select, and these are just bootstrap classes. Yeah, so that's all I want to do. And below this div, what I want to go ahead and create another div here, and this is going to have a class of form hyphen group dot border bottom. So let me just type a border bottom, and this is going to be a padding bottom of 3, and then we're going to give it a margin dot margin top of 4. So press enter there, and once we have that, you can just go in here, and inside of this one here, what I want, so this is margin bottom, and then this will be padding bottom is going to be 3. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and input here another the last field, which is going to be our submit button right here. So let me just copy that and then go in here. I'm going to simply say form dot submit, just like that. I even copied this, and I can just go ahead and paste it here, and then I'm going to pass in a class. It is going to have a class of the following. So going to be btn, which is just a class for bootstrap button. So we're going to say outline dash info. So I don't want the button to be filled with coloring. It only gets filled with coloring whenever you hover on it. So once I have this done, that's all I need. So let's go back and start our development server again. So I'm going to go python 3 and then run.py, start the development server. So I got an error here. Let's say from Flask import my form, no module. Okay, Flask form. Okay, let me just go inside of here and then say, let me just import this properly. So I'm going to say application.form. Okay, application.forms. So let me just go ahead and start my development server again, and yeah, once it's started, I can just go inside of the browser and then refresh this. So we get let me just zoom out to 100. Okay, so we got an error somewhere here, so let me just see where the error is. So form.language field and then class. Okay, I got that wrong there. So let me just go in here instead of HTML file here, and class is going to be equals to, right, just like that. So yeah, and then let me try to refresh this one more time. We got another error, too many values to unpack. Let me just scroll down here. So class. So it seems to be getting another error here, which says that too many values to unpack. So let's go ahead and try to fix that error. So the error is probably in here. I think I didn't close off this, so close this off, because these are going to be tuples, right? A list of tuples. So yeah, that should be done, and so we have this tuple here of English and then French and French, right? So let me just go in here and then try to refresh this again. So our server is done, so down. So let me just restart the server again and then make sure I refresh this, and yeah, so you can see we have that select button, right? So you can see we can select French and English, right? So now that we have the form set up, let's go ahead, and I want a bit of space in between the data field and then the select field part. So this is the part here. So I want to go ahead and just say I want to give it margin bottom of 4. Let's say margin bottom of sorry, this is going to be margin bottom of 3, and let's refresh it here. Yeah, that's what I want. So I want the text to be a bit down, so you can easily drag and drop and then work with this right here. So yeah, that's all I want for now. So we can go back into our routes. What if a person posts a form? Right now, if a person posts a form, let's see what will happen. Nothing just happens, right? So I want to know, I want to make some changes depending on if a person posts a form or not. So what you can simply go ahead and do is to create the ability to handle that. So to do that, we have to go back into our routes, and inside of our routes you have to go into under the decoded function, and in there we need to change the function to handle a post request. Okay, because when a form is submitted, it's going to have a post request, and whenever the form is whenever a person sends a data to a form, we are going to be dealing with a post request, and then if else we're going to be dealing with the get request, means you're just sending the form to the user. Okay, so what I want to do, just below this instantiation, what I want to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and keep an if statement here. So I'm going to say if request dot method, if the request method is a post method, means the person is sending data to the file. What I want to go ahead and do, first of all, I want to go ahead and actually get the data from the form, right? I want to get all the data from the form. So I'm going to go ahead and say text underscore data, and this is going to be form dot this is going to be text field dot data, and then you're going to get the language. So I'm going to say translate underscore 2, and it's going to be form dot language field dot data. Okay, once we get all that thing, what I want to go ahead and do is I can go ahead and simply print those results out. I can print the translate to, and then all that details. So I'm going to go ahead and actually print those details out. So I'm going to print I'm going to say translate let me get the spelling right, translate to, and then translate to, I'm just going to give this, and then I'm going to translate to, I'm going to put in the translate to, okay, variable right there. So I want to go ahead and actually print that. So let me just go ahead and actually make sure my server is running, and I just stop running. So I'm going to go ahead and start the server again, and in here I'm just going to type in some gibberish text, and I'm going to translate to French, and then let me just submit this. So once it's done submitting, let me just go back into my terminal and see I get the translate to, and translate to just returns to me FR, and FR is not what French, it doesn't actually return to us French, it actually returns to us this value. So if I go back into my forms, you can see I pass in a tuple, right, having 2 elements. So it returned to me this part of the tuple, and this part of the tuple is what is used in the front end, and this other part of the tuple is what is used in the back end. So I want to display all the possible languages that we can translate to, and how do we do that? So if you go back to the official documentation of Google Translate, Google Translate supports a couple of languages, and these are all the list of languages that it supports. So it's just a dictionary. So I'm going to copy this dictionary of key value pairs, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it. Okay, so copy this and just go ahead into my I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call it utils.py. So I'm going to create a file here called utils.py, and it's going to handle some utilities for us. So I'm going to create a variable called languages, and this is going to be a dictionary, and inside of this dictionary I'm just going to go ahead and paste that right there. So I need to delete this right here. So once I have that, these are all the languages that is supported by the Google Translate. Okay, so I can simply go now that form is being read. Let's check if the server is running. It is. So I can just simply go in here. Right, first let's go ahead and actually fix it inside of our Google Forms. So what I want to do, I want to loop through all of this, create a list, right? Loop through all of this and add all of that content into that list. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to say from dot I want to import utils, okay, and I'm going to iterate through all of this. So I'm going to create a variable called languages this is languages underscore choice, and languages choice is going to be just an empty list right for now. So what I'm simply going to do, I'm going to say for key comma value in utils let me just get the spelling right. So for key comma value in utils.languages, okay, and utils.languages is this dictionary right here that returns to us the code of the language and the language itself. So what I'm going to do, dot items, so I'm going to say dot items, and items returns to us is a method that returns to us the key and the value pair. So I want to say languages choices dot I'm going to dot append, and instead of this list I'm going to go ahead and append a tuple rather, and tuple is going to be of the key and the value right there. So once you have iterated through the dictionary and added a tuple to this list right here of key and value pairs, what I want to go and do, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to replace all of this here for our choices. I'm going to replace it with this languages choice, because it's a dictionary that consists of tuples, and you're getting this from this util, which is going to be from the official documentation of Google Translate. So let's go and check if let me just start my development cycle. So I'm going to do Python 3 and then run.py. So once the server is running, I'm just going to go in here and then just refresh this. Let me just cancel this. Let me just do a Control Shift and R. Let me just say continue. So once you can see, we have this translator here, and you can see we can use all this bunch of all these languages we can translate our form, our text into. Okay, so now once we have all of this done, and if I just click on, let's say I click on Arabic and then just submit the form, and I can go into my terminal, I can see it's going to return to me the Arabic right here. So it all works as expected. So once we have that working, what I simply want to do, let's go back in here. We are getting the data from the form successfully. So what I want to do right now is get the text from the text that the user has provided, and then translate that text into a given language, and then from there we can make the audio file and other stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So where are we going to get the text from? So whenever a person does the translation, the sentence using the OCR, right, optical character recognition. So that gets stored in here, right? So what I want to do is actually get it from here and then pass it down into this function. So we can use a global variable, but a global variable in Flask is not thread safe. So I'm going to be using a session whereby each user will have his own session, means that this variable will be unique for each individual user, and that will avoid any thread race condition and stuff like that. So in here, after reading all the sentences and appending all the words together, concatenating all the words together, I want to store this in a session, and then I can access the session from this part of my program, and then use this for other needs that I want. So let's go ahead and actually create a session. So to create a session, what I want to go ahead and do, we have to go into our init file, and init file here, that's why we need to use Flask Sessions to create this session. And if you know what Flask session is, I have a whole tutorial on Flask session on my YouTube page, so kindly check that video out. So in here, what you're simply going to do instead of our __init.py file is the following. So I'm going to go ahead and import Flask session. So I'm going to go ahead and say from Flask_session import, I'm going to import session. And also from Flask, I also want to go yeah, that's what we need for now. This is all we need. And then I can go ahead and set the session configuration. Let me just set it, keep it right here. So let me just keep it right here. So at the below this line, I want to go ahead and keep the session information. So I'm going to say session type all this to be lowercase, and this is going to be file system. Okay, and this needs to be a string. So I'm going to say this is a file system because we're going to be storing our session on the file system. Well, Flask sessions also support different systems that you can use, such as Redis, MySQL, SQL Alchemy, and other stuff like, or even MongoDB sessions. We can use it with Flask sessions. But in this case, since this is just a simple project, we're going to be using the file-based system for our session. So also I want to go ahead and say app.config. Okay, app.config, and then app.config I want to say .from object, and I want to pass in __ name, just like that. And I want to also go ahead and instantiate the session. So I'm going to say session, and this is going to be session, which is what you have imported from right here, and I'm also going to pass in our app, just like that. So that's all we need to get that done. So once we have that, let's check if our server is running. Okay, so let me just clear this and try to run that again. We don't have Flask session installed, so let's just go ahead and install that. So you can just say pip install Flask -session, thing like that, you can get Flask session installed. If you don't know, you can just go ahead and check this in the official Google documentation about Flask session. So official Google documentation on Flask session. Again, I have a whole tutorial on Flask session on my YouTube page, so you can also check that out. So we have everything now working. So if you run Flask session, one thing you can notice, let me just go into my VS Code and explain this to you. So you can see we have a folder here called Flask_session. In this we are going to be using storing all our session information, since you're using a file system, right? So it's going to be stored inside of this folder, which is part of the file system. So once we have that, great. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are able to use our session instead of our routes.py. So instead of our routes.py file, what I want to go ahead and do, I want to import a session from Flask. I want to go up here, and then also I want to import session, just like that. So once I have that done, what I want to do is I want to create a session, and to create a session is very simple, very simple to do using Flask session. So what I want to do, I'm just going to scroll to the very bottom where we have our sentence here. So let me just comment this out for now, so you're not going to be printing out that sentence. I want to do session, and I want to add in a variable called a session called sentence, and this is going to be equals to sentence. And sentence is a sentence that we get by concatenating all the words that have been detected by the OCR, character recognition system. You're going to add all of those together, and then you're going to assign it into our session by using this session variable. So once we have that, I can simply go ahead and access that in here. So I want to go ahead, I can go ahead and actually access the session information in here if I want to, but in this case, yeah, we can actually go ahead and access that. So let's go ahead and get access to that information. So I'm just going to go above here, and I'm going to say sentence. Let me just say sentence. This is going to be equals to session dot get, and I'm going to simply pass in the what I want to get is going to be sentence. This is very similar to how we work with dictionaries, right? So once we get that session, I'm just going to keep an else block here. So I'm going to keep an else block, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to use an else block there. The reason why we are going to be using an else block here is because in case it's not a post request, then it's going to be a get request, because you only allow these two methods, right? So if it's not a post, if it's not a post request, then it's going to be a get request. So in this case, if it's a get request, then that means that a user has submitted an image, and then you have decoded the image to get the characters and words inside of that image, and then you have put this inside of our session. So I want to get this from our session, and whenever with our form displays, we want to fill this with session information, in the sentence that we obtained from that text. So let me just go, we're going to say form dot form dot text field dot data, and the data is going to be equals to the sentence that we just detected from the image. So the image is the form is going to be pre-filled with the sentence that you have detected, or the words that you have detected from the image file, and then you're going to simply go ahead and return this. And then after getting this, I want to go ahead and actually set this session to be an empty. So I'm going to say session, and then I'm going to say sentence, and this is going to be just an empty string. So after getting the sentence, and you're going to pre-fill the form with that sentence, we're going to now set the sentence now to be an empty string. So once we have that done, I can just simply go ahead and let's try this out. So let me just go in here, and so let me start my server again. So clear this, and then start my development server again. So let me just refresh this. Let me just refresh this. So I'm just going to go into /upload. So / and then upload. So in /upload, I'm just going to click on this and then upload that image file. So upload this, and then let's see what we get. So we get directed here, and the form has already been pre-filled with the sentences that have been, with the words that have been detected in that image that we just uploaded here. So once we have that, great. In case a person posts, now what do we want to do? In this case, what I want to do first, we have obtained the text that the person has, the text that's inside of the form, and the language that the person has selected, right? The language that the person wants to translate to, and we have stored them inside of these two variables. So what I want to do is do the translation. So let's keep that function inside of the utils file, and avoid cluttering our route.py file. So let's go into our utils files, and inside of our util file, what I want to do is actually keep that logic of translating in there. So let me just go ahead and import the following. So I'm going to go ahead and actually say from Google Trans, right? From Google Trans, I want to import Translator, just like that. So I want to create an instance of this. So I'm going to say translator, and this is going to be an instance of this translator class from that you've obtained from Google Trans. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call this function detect underscore language. So detect language expects a text, and it's going to detect which language which language that text was written in. So I want to detect the language and display to the user that we know which language the actual text is, and then the user can translate into different languages. So I want to get the language that has been used. So I'm going to say detected underscore language underscore data, data, and this is going to go ahead and be going to say translator dot detect, just like that. And this is going to detect, and you're going to pass in text, and it's going to detect which language was used instead of a text. And again, if you want to read more about this, you can go ahead to the official documentation and read more about Google Trans. I also have a video on my YouTube channel that goes into depth about Google not into depth, but goes over the base of Google Trans, so you can also check that out, and also you can read the documentation and stuff like that. So if you do Google Trans.detect, it's going to return to us two things, right? It's going to return to us the language and then the confidence, like how confident it is that it belongs to the language that it said it belongs to. So what I want to do, I want to get the language. So I say language and then language, and language is going to be equals to detected lang data dot I want to get the language, and you can say the confidence. Okay, say confidence, and the confidence is going to be detected language dot. So once we have the language, one thing it also returns to us is the confidence, right? So I also want to get the confidence from that, so I'm going to go ahead and actually paste this in here, and this is going to be detected language, and I'm going to paste that confidence in there. So I'm going to get the confidence and the language, and I'm simply going to go ahead and let me just put it here. I'm going to say return language and the confidence, just like that. So I want to return the language and the confidence. Okay, this is going to return to us the language that has been detected. So let's go back into our routes and see what we need to do. So now that we know the language that has been detected, we can use that to do our translations, okay? Because we want to translate from one language to the other, so we have to specify which language we want to translate to, right? So let's go down here and simply say let's say that translated underscore text, and the translated text, we need another function actually to get the translated text. So we can actually go ahead and actually get the translated text, okay? So let's go back into our route. Let me just comment this out for now. What we need to do, we need to go back into our utils, and inside of our utils we need to create a function called translate text that takes in the text and then what to translate into, and then does the translation for us. So let's go back in there. So let's go into our utils here, and inside of our file, we want to go ahead and write that function to actually translate the text that has been detected from one language into the other. So I'm going to go ahead and say have a function here, and I'm going to say translate underscore text, and in here I'm going to expect a person to pass in a text and then the destination, like which language the person wants to translate to. So I'm going to say translate. We're going to say translated underscore text, and the translated text is going to be translator dot translate, and then we're going to pass in the text and the destination, okay? And destination is going to be equals to the destination that we have, okay? So this is going to be the text and then the language in which you want to translate into. After getting that, you're simply going to return the translated text, okay? Let me just get translated text right here. So after that, you want to go ahead and return the translated text. So that's all we need to do. So now that we have this logic, let's go back into our routes, and instead of our routes, what I want to do is now do the translation, because in our routes, let me just go into our routes here. In our routes file, we have the text that has been detected inside of the image. So now we can now use that text and translate it into the language that the user specified. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me just comment this out, and then I'm going to say translated text, and this is going to be equals to utils utils dot. Okay, I didn't think I imported utils, so okay, do I have utils imported? Let me just import that. So I'm going to say let me just delete this, because VS Code does some automatically import. So I'm going to say from application dot utils. Okay, from application, let me just import utils, just like that. So down here, you're going to say utils dot, and then you're going to say translate text, which is that function that we just defined in there, and you're going to pass in the text data, and pass in the text data. That's what you want to translate, and then you also need to pass in the language in which you want to translate to. So we're going to pass in the translate to language which was selected by the user, right? And this is going to be equals to these values right here. So it's going to be either AF, SQ, AM, AR, and other stuff like that. And I've already showed you how this select form works, right? So this is going to translate the text into the language that is specified. Okay, so once we have that, we can actually go ahead and print the translated text. Okay, let's go ahead and actually print that translated text right here. So let's go ahead and try it out and see if the translation works as expected. So let me just go in here, and let me just go into our website. Let's check if our server is running. It is not, so clear that, and then let's restart our server again. So once our server is running, so let me just go into my browser, go in here and try this out again. So I'm just going to go to / and then upload. So in here, I'm just going to click on this and then select this, and then click on upload. So once we have that, we have this right there. So let me just go ahead and just translate this text. So let's just translate this into English. Okay, let's see what we get back. So I'm going to select English, and marafiki bora is a Kiswahili word or phrase that stands for best friend. So let me just translate this and see what we get. So you get back an error. It says that function decoded did not return a valid response. Okay, for now, just ignore that error for now, and let's go in here and let's see if it actually printed the thing we wanted. Yeah, so it printed it out, and you can see we have the pronunciation is best friend, which is right here, and then the text is best friend here, and then the destination was to English, and then the source was Swahili, which is Swahili, the shortcode for Swahili. So it translated from the source Swahili to destination English, and then the result was best friends, which is marafiki bora in Swahili. So once we have that, forget about all this error now, because we didn't return anything else. So you can just return something, and then that error will be gone, but we'll deal with this just in a second. So we are getting the translated text back as expected. So what I want to do, I want to simply go ahead and actually translate the text. Let's go into our utils. Instead of returning just the translated text, we just say the translated text. We can just say the dot. Based on this output here, you can just say the dot. Let me just see. Yeah, you can just say the dot text, and that is going to return to us the text version instead of returning to us all of these objects. So you say the dot text. So you can even copy this from here, and then here you can just simply say dot text right here. So it's just going to return to us the text only and not that whole object. So great. So once we have the text only, what I simply want to do is, now we have translated it from one language into the other. So now what I want to do is now pass that information into our form, right? We want to pass that information into our form, and then generate an audio file also for that. So we can also go here and just simply say here, we're going to say form dot this is going to be text text field dot data, and the data is going to be the translated text, right? So after I do the translation, then the text now should be the translated text, and then at the end of the day, you also want to return this, right? So I'm going to copy this and return this to avoid that error of nothing was returned. Okay, so yeah, so let's go ahead and actually try this out to make sure everything works. So clear the terminal and then restart my server again. So go inside of in here, go back, and then let me just go in here and then go to / upload. So in /upload, I'm going to upload an image, which is going to be this one of Marafiki Bora. Okay, upload that, and then you can see we have Marafiki Bora. So let's say we want to translate this into English, and then to English is going to return best friends, right? So I submit this, and you can see now we get the translation as best friends. So great, everything works as we expected it to. So now that I have the text, what I want to do now is convert it into an audio file. Okay, because now we have the translation being done. Now we want to get the audio file, so I'm going to use the Google text-to-speech library. So let's go ahead and actually have that imported. So let's go ahead and import that for this to work. So this will say from gTT actually this is gTTS import gTTS, just like that. So once we have that, we can use that and use it to translate to create a text to speech, right? Because we already have the text, now we want to get the speech version. So I'm going to say text to speech, and this is going to be equals to gTTS dot gTTS, and then in here this is going to be an object. So I'm going to say passing the translated text, and we want to pass in the translator. So I'm going to say lang, and the lang is going to be equals to language, and the language is going to be equals to translate to like the language that the person wants to translate to. Yeah, translate. Okay, let me just get that right. So copy this and simply paste it in here. So we're going to create an audio version of the text, and then which language do we want it in? The language in which the user wants to translate to, right? So once I have that, I want to go ahead and actually save this in my file system. So I'm going to say file location, and file location is going to be equals to os.path.join, and this is going to say app.config. App.config. I want to get the following. I want to get let me just go into my underscore init.py file, and in here I want to get audio uploaded file. So I'm going to copy this and then just go in here and then paste that in there. So I want to go ahead and join this with I want to generate a random token that I can use. Okay, so let me just I can actually go in here and generate the random tokens. Let me just I can just generate it. Let me just keep it here at the very top. So I'm going to say generated audio underscore file name, and this is going to secret. So I'm going to say secrets dot token hex token. This is going to be token hex, and I'm going to simply pass in here maybe 30, and I'm going to simply add to it dot mp3. Okay, dash mp. I can even leave it to be mp4. Okay, yeah, so that's all I want to do. So I want to generate some random token and then add to it this mp3 file to create a file name. So this file name is what I'm going to use to save my content here. So I'm going to paste that in there, and let me fix that indentation. Let me just fix that, bring all of this down here, and then this here as well. Yeah, so that's all I want to do, and let me just figure. Yeah, so that's all I want to do in this case. So I want to generate a file name where I'm going to simply store the audio file, and then I want to go ahead and actually save it actually in that location. So gtts.save, which is as the audio file. I want to save it in file underscore location. So I want to save that file, the audio file. We want to save it in this file location that you have just generated. Okay, so once we have that, yeah, that's all we need for now. But how do we display the audio to user? But for now, let's just save it in there, and for now, if you go into our underscore init, and then you can see we're going to save this in audio files. So let me just check in our static, and then / audio files, we have the audio files right here. So it should be saved here. So for now, we can see we have nothing inside of this folder. So let's go ahead and try it out, and let's see if it works. So clear the terminal and then start my development server one more time, and then go into here, the front end, and then just do /upload, and then press enter. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this. So upload this. So once it's uploaded, I want to translate this into English. So English, and then translate. So you can see we have best friends. Okay, so you can see now we are getting back best friends. So everything works as expected. So now we are getting back best friends. What I simply want to do is we can check, let's check if the audio file has been generated. So the audio file has been generated, and you can play that audio file and trust, I guarantee you it will be the text that you have specified. And one thing is that this the file name is just too long, so let's just go and try to reduce, let's just make it to be maybe 10, and that's enough. We don't want any long file names. Okay, so yeah, the file name is being generated and the audio version of the text is being saved. So what I want to do is actually display the audio version of the text here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and try to handle that. So what you need to do, we need to go into our decoded.html file, and in here we need to write in some logic to display the display that audio file. So first of all, let's just go ahead and actually we need to check if, because an audio can exist or an audio cannot exist. So the first thing we want to do is actually check if the audio exists, and if the audio exists, that's when you want to display the audio, else we don't want to display the audio. So let's go into our routes here, and you can simply pass audio here. So I'm just going to say audio, audio, and I'm going to say audio is going to be true. And for when it's just a get request, then the audio is going to be false, because at that point we don't have any audio, so audio is going to be false. So now I want to check if this is true inside of my Jinja 2 template. So I'm just going to go in here and create a code block. So create a code block and simply do the check. I'm going to say if then we going to keep the code here, and then I'm going to say simply say if audio. So if the audio, let me just go ahead and actually end the if. So end if. So in case there's an audio, what I want to do, I want to display that audio. So I'm going to say I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give it a d-flex flex, and then it's going to be justify. Let me just do a d-flex for now, d-flex, and then in here I'm going to specify justify content center. Justify content center, and I'm going to give margin top of 4. Just keep a bit of spacing in there, and then I'm going to have an audio. So I'm going to say audio. So the audio source, you're going to specify the audio source later on. So the audio source is what the user needs to pass in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and for now let's finish the HTML, and then we'll go back to that audio source. Okay, so for now I want to say it's going to be controlled, it's going to be true, so the user can control that to play and to pause, and then control, and then we can have a class. So we can also specify a class. So we're going to say class, and the class is going to be margin -auto, just like that. And for now we can just remove this source. I'm going to use another way to pass in the source. So I'm going to go ahead and going to say passing this, and I'm going to say source, and the source is going to be the following. So let me just close that source off. It's going to be source. Yeah, so source, actually we don't need to close this off. Okay, so for the source I can just go ahead and say src, and for the src we're going to go ahead and specify the source. So you can also use url for. So again it's going to go ahead and say url_for, and then you're going to say static, because that audio file is going to be found inside of the static folder. And if you have the static folder, you're going to also specify the file name. So I'm going to say file name, and the file name is going to be so the file name is going to be inside of the file name is going to be found inside of this audio file, and then / the file name. So when you say audio audio_file, and then / and then the file name that the user is going to be passing in. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get that information. So I'm going to go ahead and specify file. So the file is the file of the content of that audio. Okay, so once we have that, in case there's an error, we can just tell the user that your browser does not support the audio. Let's say your browser does not support the audio, just like that. And for now let's go ahead and actually fix that passing this file variable that we expect. So let's go into our routes, and instead of our route we need to pass in that file information, so that the audio the browser can know from which source we're getting the audio from. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into our routes.py here, and inside of our route.py we need to go ahead down here, and then we need to pass in that file information. So the file information is going to be the information, the location where we stored that file. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go here and then simply say comma, and then the file, and the file is going to be the generated generated file name, because we only expect the file name since you're going to go into audio files, and then you want, so, or the only thing we want is the file name right here. So we're going to append that file name to this audio underscore files. Okay, it's actually audio underscore files. Yeah, so once we have that done, we can go ahead. Let me just format this a bit to make it look prettier. So format this and make it look much better, and break this down here, and then I'm simply going to go ahead and tab this over. Also this, I want to bring it down here, and yeah, so yeah, that's what I want. So once we have that, yeah, that's all we want. You can also go ahead and pass in a title if you want, because we expect a title as well, and the title is just going to be the following. So the title can just be decoded or something, or we can just say translations. I don't know, just say anything, just translation is okay for me. So once I have that, yeah, so you have specified the form, whether the audio exists or not, and then the file name. Okay, so if the file, if the file exists, it's going to look for the if audio is set to true, then it's going to look for the file name. Otherwise, you're not even going to display this whole block. So let's go ahead and actually try this to make sure that it actually works. So let me just check if my server is running. It's not, so I'm going to start my server again. So I'm going to go into the browser and then just go back, just delete this and just do a /upload, and in here I'm just going to go ahead and upload the file again. So upload this file. So once the file is uploaded, and I'm going to translate this into English, and going to translate this to English, I can just translate that. So you can see we have that there, so you can actually play that file and to tell us the text that has been generated. It's going to tell us, sorry, the audio content that has been generated. So once we have that done, yeah, that's all I want to do. Once we have that done, that's all I want to do. So let's just go into our file in here. So after passing in the information that we want, getting all the information and then decoding it and doing all of that, yeah, that's basically it. And what I want to do is, right now I can see that if I go into my website, the Bootstrap card does not display, and this styling is a bit wrong. So let's try, let me just go into decode it and try to see why we made an error here. Why it actually doesn't display properly. I just think I made an error with my Bootstrap classes or something. That's why we're getting the display that way. So well, yeah, I think I left out one thing. I need to create another div here. This is going to be called a card, and yeah, that's all I want. So I'm going to move all of that content inside of this card for now, but for now I can just copy all of this. Copy all of this. I'm just gonna cut it out and then paste it in here. And yeah, that's all I want for now. So this is going to be div yeah, card, and then I'm going to say card hyphen style, and then I'm going to do margin bottom of 2. Let me just, okay, margin bottom of 2. Yeah, we can leave it at that. So let me just see where this ends. It ends here. So I'm going to select all of this and then indent it. Okay, so we have this that ends here, so this goes here, and then this is for this, and then this one closes off this. So yes, everything is fine. I just some bit of formatting I was doing there. So now let's go ahead and check if our styling looks much better. So let me just refresh this. So just press OK. Let me just go back in here and then do /upload, and then in here I'm going to upload this file. So upload this file again, and then let's check if this, yeah, so you can see now the styling has been modified. Okay, so great. So now once we have that done, we can just simply go ahead and also the styling of this is not properly set, but for now I'm just, because of time issues, I'm just going to ignore this for now. But you can find all the styling inside of my GitHub repository. I probably made a mistake in my styling, so you can find that on the GitHub repository, but for now I'm just going to skip over this. So once we have that done, I also want to, whenever a person tries to do a translation, right, so let me just click on this, right, it just hangs there and then just hangs, right. So what I want to do is actually display to the user information that the file has been submitted, and it should wait for the response. Okay, so I'm going to using Sweet Alert for this, and we have installed Sweet Alert in the we actually specify this the CDN for Sweet Alert. So let's go ahead and actually make use of it. So I'm going to create a script again. I'm going to say document.get element by ID, and I want to get the submit button. So I'm going to get the submit button right here, and the submit button. So I'm going to get that. So I'm going to say submit, and then I'm going to say dot add. This is going to be dot add event listener, and this event listener is going to listen for a click event, on click event, and whenever an on click event is occurs, what I want to do is run this function, and this function, what it's simply going to do is going to simply do a swivel alert here. So I'm going to say swivel, and then sorry, a switch alert rather, not a swivel. So I'm going to say title. This is an object, Tessaract object. I'm going to say file upload in progress, in process, and then I'm going to go ahead and say the text, and the text is going to be please wait, and then this can take some time, right? Just like that. So once I have that, I also want to display an icon, and then an icon is going to be of type success. So I'm going to say success, and then I'm going to finally say a button, and the button is going to be having the text of okay. So once I have that done, that's all I want to do. So let me just go ahead and try this out again. So try this out. It's not going to actually display for now, so let me just go back in here and then just do /upload, and then try this out all over again. So upload the file, and then once I have that, I can simply try to translate this into English and then do this. So you can see we get the alert here, and whenever that we have the content, it brings back here, and we have the text content right here. So everything works as expected, and we're getting the translation both here, and also getting the audio as we want it to be. So yeah, that's basically all we want to do. So let's go ahead and actually fix one more thing. So you can see I have to type here constantly upload, and then /decode and all that information. So let's actually make use of those buttons. For now they don't do anything, right? So I want to click this button. I want to take me to the page where I can drop in an image. So I think they are going to those are in the index page. So you can see all this. Let me just close this for now. Go to our index page right here. So in our index page, that's where we have those two buttons right here. So we want to modify these buttons and actually make them to point to the page that we want them to point. So you have to change this href right here. So what I want to do is go in here and then delete all of this, and then pass in this. So 2 curly braces and then 2 curly braces. So we are all _4, and then I'm going to say upload, and then I'm going to just say upload. So it will take me to upload, and then yeah, that's all I want to do. So once that we have that specified over there, I also want to go ahead and actually copy this, and also replace the pound sign, the hashtag over here, and then simply paste this also with upload. So both of them will point us to the same direction. So let me just go ahead and let me just move this to a bit of the side. Let me just close off this, in fact, so that you guys can see all of that. So once we have that, I guess go ahead and refresh my page again. So if I click on this, and if I just hover on them, you can actually see at the corner here it shows where it's going to take me to. So if I click on this, it takes me to upload, and I can upload an image right here. Get that, and it's going to translate it. So if I just go back to the home page, I want to do the same with this one. It also brings the same page. I want to actually upload now the the image. So we're going to get that whole text of rich.poor.dat, and you can see we have it right here. So once you have this whole text, you can translate it. Let's say we want to translate it into let's say Swahili. So let me just go and see where I can get translation into Swahili. Swahili right here. So I need to try to translate, and then I just wait for that to complete, and once that is complete, we'll get the translation to Swahili. So this is done, and we get the translation into Swahili. So yeah, and it is translated as perfectly as possible. So you can actually play this to get the audio as well. And in this case, you might not hear the audio in some cases because I'm actually in recording mode. But trust me, if you play this in the background, the audio is gonna work. So yeah, that's basically how you can deal with that project. So that's all I wanted us to cover in this project. If you enjoyed this tutorial so far, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the the notification bell so that you can stay updated whenever I upload future videos on machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. So yeah, that's basically it for this tutorial. If you like so far, give it a thumbs up and share this video with your friends and family who you think might find this helpful. Again, don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to my YouTube channel for that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. In case you have any questions or any inquiries, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. See you in the next one.